Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is a lovely Friday afternoon. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and tonight we're going to be breaking down in some detail Wednesday night's 3-1 victory against Pumas. But before all of that, I'm joined by my co-host, Saur. My friend, how are you feeling tonight?
A little bit chaotic. That's how I'm feeling. I'm not ready for this episode. My thoughts are all over the place. But while you ramble on, I'm sure I'm going to think of something to say about the game. I've done a little bit of my prep already. My awards are all in place. So we can talk about how Inter Miami, even without Lionel Messi, put on an absolute show. And we're on to the next round. And we might just win it all.
Yeah, maybe we should preface this because normally we do this the day after the game, and it's 2 days after. And not only you, but I as well had overwhelmingly busy schedules over the last 48 hours, and that's why we were not able to do it last night. But also, I think it may have prevented, at least me, from doing the type of deep dive I like to do on the rewatch. It was much more of a in 2x speed, trying to make sure I got a second look at everything. But I did not take the copious notes that I normally do, did not break down some of the plays and some of the transitions in ways that I normally do. So I think we're just going to wing it tonight and call it good. And I think we'll see how it goes.
You know what the good thing about that is?
What's up?
You're not going to go on a 20-minute rant about how good Luis Suárez was. So that for me, I think is great. Sounds fantastic. And at least you're not going to come with receipts about Luis Suárez's performance. And that helps me.
I am not going to come with receipts on Luis Suárez's performance. I'm not going to go on a 20-minute rant because I do not give out the man of the match today, which means you're going to be giving a 20-minute speech about how great Luis Suárez was.
Who says Luis Suárez was man of the match from my side?
Well, we will see. We'll find out, of course. Before we get started, I should note, spoiler alert, Inter Miami won 3-1. They finished second in the MLS side of the bracket, and they will be playing Tigres in the quarterfinal. That game is in 12 days, August 20th, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you hadn't heard the news, you can mark it on your calendars. It's going to be not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday at Chase Stadium, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I think the two of us will be there, or rather be here at 7 p.m. Eastern time, talking about that game, breaking it down. But I think that's it, man. I think... Actually, there's one other thing I did want to mention. The lack of news regarding transfers is making me a little nervous. There's 13 days until the end of the summer transfer window, and we have heard nothing really concrete advancing, which makes me think we don't have anything concrete advancing, which means I think fans should start preparing themselves for a summer transfer window that is Rodrigo de Paul, who is a phenomenal talent, as we've seen so far, but maybe nothing else beyond that. So it'd be cool if they got a defender. It'd be even cooler if they got an attacker they really believed in. But for now, I think maybe we should prepare ourselves that this is it.
Yeah, prepare for the worst eventuality, I guess. For me, that'd be very problematic because we're just one injury away from having another crisis of depth. We do need somebody in centre-back for sure. Hopefully somebody who's better than the options that we have available to us right now. And then it would be a bonus if we can get a forward who is a lot more prolific in taking people on, a lot more prolific as a out-and-out winger compared to the options that we have right now. Don't know if that comes about. I'm a little bit surprised that there's not been any news, especially after the Rodrigo de Paul signing. But I won't be surprised if this window ends and we don't sign anybody either, because that's how Inter Miami operates. If we can't get our options, I think it feels like we don't move on from that. So hopefully this is going to be one of those cases where one day we wake up, we hear that Inter Miami is after this person. They sign him within the next 24 hours, and then it takes the next 2 months to get their visa. But at least they'll be part of the squad, and we'll have somebody coming in. And we have Baltazar Rodriguez, who's basically going to be a new signing as soon as he's ready and available. So that's the silver lining.
Drake Calendar, new signing.
Yeah.
We've got Ian Frey back. That's like a new signing. And maybe Alan Obando, a backup striker coming in for 17 minutes over the course of the rest of the season. It's really exciting if you really think about it, and especially if you don't think too hard about it. Uh, okay, anything else about this game you want to get into before we actually start talking about what happened? Anything in the pregame that you wanted to reflect on or you think sets us up for the rest of this conversation?
No, I think the one thing that we do need to point out is the selection, the starting 11 for me. Of course, Yannick Bright being part of the starting 11 was a big bonus. We talked about how the midfield is going to be very combative. It's going to be decided in the middle of the park who takes the onus in this game. And I thought Bright's role was immense, both as a destroyer, a ball carrier, and just a midfield menace that he was. Completely stopped Carrasquilla and anything that Pumas had to offer in the middle. And for me, that was very important to contain the threat and to contain their star man from taking over the game. So credit to Javier Mascherano at the top just for picking the right starting 11. And I think that set the tone for how Inter Miami would proceed and how Inter Miami would approach this game.
This was a midfield battle, like an intense midfield battle for like 43 minutes of this game. And I will be honest, I thought Pumas was the better team for the first 44 minutes of this game. And I thought it even more so on the rewatch. They do break through in the 34th minute, but they have a number of opportunities, even as early as the first, or I guess the second minute. Carrasquilla has a shot inside the box that Rocco has to make a save on. They were getting clear-cut opportunities, not always putting the ball on frame, but they were, I thought, much more dangerous than Inter Miami, who had 2 or 3 half chances in the first half. But I thought the nature of the game was really favoring Pumas, and they did break through in the 34th minute. Pedro Vite lifts a ball over the top. He's about 8 yards outside the penalty box, lifts it into sort of around the penalty spot. Jorge Revolcaba with a very nice run, makes the darting run into the box and finishes past Rocco Ríos Novo. Let's stop on this moment because I think I spent more time thinking about this individual play than any other moment. And I came to the conclusion that I think this is mostly on Yannick Bright.
I agree. I think Yannick Bright does fall asleep. And this is the second time this has happened in as many games because you could make a case that in the last game against Necaxa, there was a similar sort of a situation where Yannick Bright may have fallen asleep, led a player in behind. This was, I think, a lot more blatant. He lost his man, as clear as that. But I also spent a lot of time looking at this to understand who to blame on. And I also came to the conclusion that the defensive structure was completely skewed because
I agree.
Chelo Wegan and Lujan were marking one man together. And if Yannick Bright lets go of a player, one of them should be tracking back and covering because they were definitely outnumbering. They were marking the same person. So I was very confused as to what was happening there.
Yeah, let's talk about it because basically the left winger cuts inside, sort of drifts inside, not with the ball, off the ball. He drifts inside. The striker, who was playing between Maxi Falcone and Gonzalo Lujan, drifts to the left. And Gonzalo Lujan drifts with him to make sure that he doesn't have an open clearance to the sort of central part of the pitch, that if there's going to be a darting run, it's going to be to the outside and a bad angle. I think Lujan handled that as he was supposed to. And so the guy that Chelo is, I think, maybe most responsible for it, leaves the zone. Chelo's not going to drift out there into the midfield with him, so he kind of ends up guarding no one, and they're standing next to the same striker. But that is the number 9. Away from that, on the other side of the pitch where the ball actually is, there is some movement and some ins and outs on that left side of our defense, and that's pulling Maxi Falcone into that sort of part of the pitch. And the reason why I blame Yannick Bright is because he takes a look back at Revolcaba. He knows that he's there, and he kind of switches off for half a second. He takes his eye off of it, and the darting run is well-timed. It's a really great ball. I mean, it's a nice play by Pumas. I'm not going to I'm not going to say it was like a terrible defensive mistake, but I think that's where the responsibility goes. I also wonder, and we can't really see on the replay, but I think maybe there's a little room for Rocco to be another 2 steps off his line and potentially there for a more physical challenge. But I think this is on Yannick Bright, mostly. But
Yeah,
also just like
I
a nice
agree.
play.
It was a very nice play. I think the defensive structure was a little bit confusing to me. You've explained that well, but I agree with you. Yannick Bright did fall asleep. Should have been the man covering.
Well,
But
and
it's okay.
I think what you're saying is interesting because how should they be handling that situation? I think they're going to go back. They're going to go back and look on the film, and they're going to say, okay, this is how we want to handle that moving forward. Luan, if you see the right winger cutting in, the left winger cutting in, pass off the striker or at least double team him. Make sure you're not leaving that much space. I think there's a way to work on that in training, but I'm not going to blame them for not having that when it's not something that's been attacked a ton this season.
And it was a
Moving
great pass. So
And it was. Moving forward, again, first 44 minutes, I thought Pumas was the better team. 55-45, I'm not saying suggesting it was a blowout, but I thought they were the better team. I thought they were actually doing a pretty good job in the midfield. Yannick Bright had a lot of defensive actions that created turnovers. But if it wasn't for that, it may have looked much more convincingly in Pumas' favor. I thought Sergio Busquets also had some nice defensive moments. But there is a saving grace moment in the 45th minute where there's a Yannick Bright pass wide to Luis Suárez, who puts in a beautiful cross to Rodrigo de Paul. De Paul takes one touch and then toe pokes it into that side netting, and Inter Miami equals the score right before halftime. It's 1-1. And I will say, I felt after we gave up that first goal and it looked like Pumas was playing better, I thought we were in real trouble. Then we scored right before half, and I thought, okay, I think we're okay.
that was the perfect time to score because it takes away Pumas' opportunity to compose themselves, gives Inter Miami a massive boost going into the half, and honestly changes the equation and changes Javier Mascherano's game plan. Because if we had gone down into the half with a 1-0 scoreline and Inter Miami losing, Javier Mascherano may not have made the changes that he made.
I
think,
want to give Mascherano credit for that, but we'll get to that in a second. So let's stick
Yeah.
on the play for a minute.
For me, I think you're right that Pumas was definitely one step ahead of Inter Miami, getting the better in the second balls, creating a lot more incisive passes. I thought they utilized their wings a lot better. Chelo Wigan, again, I thought was very poor on the left-hand side, got beaten a couple of times, and they were creating opportunities from that side. I didn't think they had that much wing play in their system, but they had a good combination of both middle combativeness with expansive wing play, and that I think hurt Inter Miami. And with Inter Miami, it was difficult because our final third penetration was just not there. We were getting the ball up well enough, but then the final ball was always short, not creating that many opportunities. But then that goal happens, and it's perfect, and also a blueprint of how Inter Miami played the rest of the game because Suarez became the facilitator. He became the man right before the final pass. That ball from Bright was fantastic. The ball from Suarez was even better. And Rodrigo de Paul, with a good composed finish, had time, took his time, and just easy, no fuss about anything. Took the scoreline 1-1. Very happy that we go into the half tied.
So I actually want to give Javier Mascherano a lot of credit because it's very easy for you to see, okay, we scored right before the half. Maybe it took us a little bit, but the game plan is working. I don't need to change anything. I feel good about where we're at. All we need is one goal to win. And instead, he does make the decision to make pretty drastic changes. He takes Chelo Wigan out of the game. He puts Ian Frey in at right back. It's the return of Ian Frey. We haven't seen him since the Club World Cup. And he moves Rodrigo de Paul from that number 10 second striker position out to the right midfield spot. And he moves Allende up top to be much more of a like classic number 9, make runs in behind. And then I guess Suarez kind of converts into that slightly deeper striker. And I think this changed the game. Absolutely. And Inter Miami cruised through that second half like it was one of their easiest games of the season.
It's very interesting because in the pre-game or post-game reaction, I mentioned that I want to hold off on any credit to Javier Mascherano for the Frey Wigan switch because I'm not sure if he received an injury or Wigan was just not able to play the 45, whatever happened, whether that was a forced substitution or not. It doesn't seem like Wigan picked up an injury, so it almost seems premeditated. Javier Mascherano made that change for a reason. Regardless, that was just one of the tweaks that he made. So you can or cannot give credit depending on how much you favor Javier Mascherano. But the second part that he did was exactly what you said: push Tadeo Allende up as a striker, make Luis Suárez a false nine, number 10 sort of a facilitator. And that just completely changed the dynamic of the play because we were able to utilize Allende's expansiveness a lot better, and we were able to utilize Luis Suarez's link-up play a lot better, maximized everybody on the pitch in our front line. And as you said, Inter Miami looked like they were flowing in the final third in that second half, and it was such a good watch.
Yeah, I want to come back to why that made such a difference, but let's get to some of the goals. 56th, 57th minute, Jose Caicedo has a handball in the box. And so without Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez steps up to take the penalty. I will remind you, Pumas' goalkeeper, Keylor Navas, obviously one of the greatest of his generation, out of this game because of a red card suspension. And so they're playing a 21-year-old debutante in goal at Chase Stadium. And so you have this 21-year-old making his senior team debut going up against Luis Suarez one-on-one in a penalty situation. There was no way that that kid wasn't going to just dive as hard and fast as he could to one side and just hope for something special. And so for Luis Suarez to understand the moment and know there's no way that kid is going to wait and react and handle that situation with aplomb. The Panenka was perfect. And unlike his penalty in the game against Necaxa, this one does hit the back of the net. And so I feel good about it.
Yeah, he took it perfectly. I don't think he could have taken it with any more confidence, and the cheek on him to not have scored in how many games? 5, 6, maybe longer? Or much longer, I think. Yeah.
Pumas. I'm sorry, Palmeiras.
And then just goes and chips it. A Panenka, beautifully taken Panenka. And there you go, Inter Miami 2-1 up. I will say right before that, he had a goal chalked off as well. So it could have easily been one of those games where Suarez becomes frustrated not getting a goal. But he kept his head down, did all the good work. Rodrigo de Paul had a really good ball into that for that free kick that led to that offside goal. But I think this was more Luis Suarez's, okay, he's going to bury it and bury it hard. And great penalty, very cheeky and deserved. I think one player who deserved a goal in this game was him because he worked his socks off.
Yeah, and then he has another impactful moment 10 minutes later, 69th minute, Luis Suarez with a nice release to Tadeo Allende, who gets a one-on-one situation with the keeper. He had 3 of those in this game, but this one he nails. Again, Miguel Paul, 21-year-old, making his debut for the club. Tadeo Allende finishes, and that's another player who hadn't scored since Palmeiras. So 2 guys that were desperate for goals get them in this game, and that was it. I mean, Pumas did not look like they were going to make a comeback. It was pretty smooth sailing. Inter Miami had a number of other chances. Krumaski with a nice chance later on. As I mentioned, Allende with another really nice opportunity that he fumbles. And so it was really all Inter Miami in the second half. The game ends 3-1. Inter Miami secures the 3 points that they needed, and as we found out, they would have needed in order to qualify for the next round of this tournament.
I think the most comfortable that they've been playing against an opponent and playing with the lead, taking the game to the opponent. I thought it was wonderfully constructed, really well played as well. Allende is a bit of a unique character in this team right now because he always gets into good positions. He's just not been able to convert. If he had converted the chances of the last 5-6 games, he could have potentially been the highest scorer for this team right now. So interesting for him, but happy that he was finally able to get on the score sheet despite the number of chances that he had. Luis Suarez was everywhere in that front line. I think he was the big difference maker for me. Yannick Bright in the middle of the park did what he does best, that is disrupt play, did not allow Pumas to construct much in the middle and forced them to move out wide. And then as soon as we had Ian Frey on that right-hand side, he just completely locked it down. I think you mentioned it in the post-game reaction that Ian Frey's defensive ability was far and above what Chelo Weigand was offering us. And if that's the case, then Ian Frey needs to start every single game, because people talk about the difference between the two and how Weigand may be the better defender. But I think Ian Frey is hands down much better as one-on-one, much better as a ball carrier, just completely changed the nature of how Pumas could attack us. And the backline held as well. Maxi Falcon, Gonzalo Lujan did a good enough job and did not make it squeaky bum time. We talked about how this might be squeaky bum time, but it wasn't. So glad that Inter Miami won 3-1. That was the scoreline that I predicted. That's what came about. And we're on to the next round, second in the league as well, which is fantastic. Or I mean, second in the league table, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think one of only 3 teams that got 8 points on either side of the bracket. Seattle with 9 points, so one of 2 teams with 8 points. So Inter Miami did really well in this tournament. I don't want to over-exaggerate their performances. They did need last-minute goals and stoppage time goals in both Game 1 and Game 2, but they did deliver them. So they go through in second place, and they get Tigres in the next round. We will talk about Tigres a little bit after, but before we get to that second half change and why it was so impactful, let's talk about Pumas for a minute. Because they were in this game. There was a lot of teams that were eliminated by that third game, and Pumas was not one of them. In fact, if they had won, they would have gone through. They were not resting their stars. They played their best players. They came to win, and in that first half, they looked like they had, I thought, solid control of the midfield and were creating some opportunities that was exploiting some of our weaknesses defensively. I thought they knew exactly where to hit our players. That Lujan Cello defensive side, right side of the pitch, for our team right side is a weakness, and I thought that weakness disappeared the minute Ian Frey came on, but Pumas understood that and was attacking it. But ultimately, they just didn't have the talent that Inter Miami has, and once Inter Miami got going and they were playing a style that suited the game and suited their talent, they just didn't have a chance.
And that's the thing, right? This is going to be Inter Miami against a lot of these opponents, not just in this tournament, but in the MLS in general. We have the superior talent and the quality. All the coaching staff needs to do is allow these players to be dynamic and unleash their potential. In this game, Javier Mascherano allowed Inter Miami to do that. I think somebody in the chat mentioned capture the second half in a bottle, because honestly, it was lightning. It felt very dynamic. It felt very, very quick. Inter Miami was not letting the foot off the gas. And we took advantage of all the X factors that we had on the pitch, whether it was Yannick Bright, whether it was Ian Frey, whether it was Luis Suarez. We've constantly spoken about how Luis Suarez is not good, but a big aspect of what you said is he's not been utilized properly. And in that game against Pumas, he was properly utilized. And we got the best of Inter Miami. So Pumas was good for a large part of the game in the first half. They were very good. They knew exactly how to make use of Inter Miami's vulnerabilities. But credit to Javier Mascherano and Inter Miami for changing things up and allowing this team to flourish in the best possible way, because once we got going, you could just see the gulf in class was there. And yes, Carrasquilla is a great player, but he's no Rodrigo de Paul. He's no Luis Suarez. So I liked what Pumas brought to the table, and maybe it might have been slightly different if they had Keylor Navas available, but Inter Miami was the superior team over the course of 90 minutes and deserved to go through.
Yeah, for sure. We should definitely mention Pumas was without their most talented player and goalkeeper, Keylor Navas. But, you know, that's not the reason they lost this game.
And I should also say, it wasn't just the fact that they were dominated by pure talent. It wasn't like Messi took over the game and just completely took it away from Pumas. Javier Mascherano had to change systems. He had to adapt. He had to then react to what the Pumas' coach was doing, as in exploit Pumas' vulnerabilities. And I think that was a major reason why Inter Miami was able to play the way that they did. So it wasn't just a complete superior talent. We had to adapt our style, which was
Well,
really good to see.
and speaking of the chess match of play styles, I thought all three Mexican teams we played this past 2 weeks, understood how to break down Inter Miami, understood where the weaknesses were, understood how to use their talent to attack our weaknesses, whether it was Lujan and Cello on that right side, whether it was between Maxi Falcone and Lujan, whether it was trying to exploit a young goalkeeper in Rocco that hadn't been playing a ton this season. They knew what they were doing. And I also think a big part of that second half was we threw something out there that we had never thrown out there before, and they had no time to adjust to it from a game plan perspective, from a coaching perspective. So I also just wanted to give credit to the coaching staff, mostly of all three teams that we played over the last 2 weeks, because I thought they all came with solid game plans and had teams that were less talented, and they went on the road and put in smart performances. Okay, second half change. 3 changes, 1 substitution. Ian Frey goes in at right back. Chelo Wagan comes out. Rodrigo de Paul goes from central midfield to right-sided midfield. Tadeo Allende goes, I guess he takes that spot in the number 10 role. I apologize. Rodrigo de Paul goes from the number 10 to that right side of midfield. Allende goes to the striker, and Suarez kind of takes a little bit of a step back, but you're really playing with 2 strikers. It, A, puts Ian Frey on the field. B, it takes Rodrigo de Paul out of the midfield where Pumas was having a ton of success, I thought, making life very difficult for him, and put him out wide where he was either going to force them to go chase him and chase the game, or he was going to have space to operate and be a little bit more effective. And then we've already talked about, and we'll talk about more, the connection between Allende and Suarez was, I thought, great for Suarez to have someone in front of him that he could help play off of. I thought it played well for him. I thought it played well for Allende, and I felt really good about it. To me, the biggest thing, Ian Frey did not come in to play right back. He came in to play right winger for the first 10 minutes of that second half. And I think that's when the game changed, and Pumas never recovered from it. They even did a little bit of high pressing into that right corner a couple times. Pumas, the midfield, was not able to handle it. A couple times they had to just launch it deep. And all of a sudden, the back line looked a little bit more nervous. They were not able to engage the ball in the midfield. They were not able to engage a midfield battle as effectively as they did in the first half. And basically, we did that by playing higher up the field, condensing the space, and making it difficult for their back line, their weakest passers, their goalkeeper, who's a debutant, to play the style they wanted to play. It was a brilliant adjustment, and I thought Pumas collapsed under the pressure, and you only had to do it for 10 minutes. They eased off after that. Ian Frey went back to playing like a normal right back spot, but it was just enough to change the entire dynamic of the game, and Inter Miami ran away with it.
It's so interesting because we went from the right side being the worst in this Inter Miami team with Allende and Chelo Wagan to, in the second half, the right side being the strongest part of our entire game, where Rodrigo de Paul and Ian Frey are just literally taking the game over. You mentioned Ian Frey playing as a right winger. He was not just hugging the byline, he was on their corner flag at some points of that first half, that second half. And I was wondering to myself, where was this with Cello? And that just allowed the whole team to push up. And when you have 2 such really good ball carriers with you on that side of the pitch, they just alleviate the pressure. They can't be pressed that easily. Ian Frey is very good on the ball. Rodrigo de Paul is very, very good on the ball. And I feel like in the first half, that was never the focal point of our attack. In the second half, that not just became the focal point of our attack, but allowed Rodrigo de Paul to get a lot more involved. Whereas in the first half, he was just stuck in the middle and the ball wasn't really coming to him. He wasn't doing much effectively with the ball in the final third. Whereas in that second half, he just dominated that side. And alongside Ian Frey, he found the perfect partner to do that. Became a lot more difficult for Pumas to contain Inter Miami from pushing up the field. And as you said, I think it just completely changed the nature of how Inter Miami was approaching the offensive play.
Well, and it was no longer a midfield battle. Yeah. I think that's like the biggest thing. their biggest strength is their midfield. They have a really nice number 6. Their 8 might be, maybe he's the best number 8 in Mexico, and Coco Carrasquilla, who has time and time again hurt my favorite teams, whether it's Inter Miami or the U.S. men's national team. And Pedro Vite is a really nice number 10 who has had a lot of success at Chase Stadium this year. So we took that midfield battle that I think we were losing in the first half, and we said, we're not going to fight this anymore. We're going to bypass you. We're going to go attack your defenders, and we're going to throw you off your game mentally. We're going to get a goal, and you're going to realize you have no chance. Now, Pepto's saying in the chat, a great point. Pumas got tired too, I thought. That humidity took over later into the game. I think that's probably true. Once Inter Miami scores in the 59th minute, especially after that 69th minute, there was no desperate sort of last gas, sort of go for it type movement from Pumas. I thought they kind of withered away. So I think maybe that can explain a lot of that last 20 minutes. But again, I want to give Javier Mascherano so much credit because he saw a midfield battle we were losing, and he said, we're not going to fight that anymore. We're going to go take the game to the opposition high up the pitch, and it worked wonders. So for him to make that halftime adjustment, one substitute, but shifting a couple other players around, I thought was outstanding. So kudos to Javier Mascherano because I've been very critical of him this year, but I want to be equally praiseworthy when he does something exceptional because I thought this was really good.
And so refreshing seeing him very proactive with his decision making because the scoreline was 1-1, as you mentioned. He didn't need to make changes. He could have just sat back on his laurels and said, okay, we finally figured it out, scored 1 goal in that first half towards the end. I think we'll be fine. He made the changes that were necessary that he thought needed to be made and was proactive, which I really liked. And that, I think, was the biggest plus for me from this game. Shows that he's capable of making those decisions. It's interesting that he does it when Messi's not on the pitch. But I think high time coming where Javier Mascherano had to prove some sort of mettle as a coach. And glad he did it in a game that was do or die. Because if Inter Miami did not win this game, we wouldn't be talking about the next round in the League's Cup. So Javier Mascherano made a difference in a massive game.
And to that point, I think we would be having a very long conversation with Javier Mascherano if they hadn't won this game. And so it's only fair that he's the reason we had this catalyst for positive improvement, that we should talk about him and give him his flowers because he deserves them. How good was the midfield trio when we were into that second half? The talent, I want to talk about that. But let's start with this from the chat. Raymond says, so with Rodrigo de Paul and possibly Bright cracking the starting 11, who's out? Redondo, Allende. I would hate for Telasco to be the odd man out, Raymond says. This is the best personnel we can put out there across the midfield 4. And I don't know how we cannot go with that 4 in any important game for the rest of the season, as long as they're healthy.
Segovia, Busquets, Bright, RDP. That's your midfield 4. Has to be. You can change things how they play, what formation they play, whether RDP is on the right, whether he's playing centrally, you can figure that out. But those 4 on the pitch together, there's just so much talent. There's so much balance. You have every sort of trait that you would want in a midfield that you can't not have them on the pitch together. Against certain opponents, you can change that up maybe. Perhaps sacrifice Segovia if you need to. Maybe sacrifice Busquets at times if he needs to be rested. But those 4 need to be your top consideration, and they need to be the locked-in starters for every single game. Absolutely. And if that means sacrificing Redondo, who has been more of a role player this season, but also sacrificing Allende, who I think needs to sit out a few games because he hasn't been great, I'm all for that because you can't sacrifice the quality that these 4 players bring.
Well, and the thing is, we have talked, the whole point of Allende, even if he's in good form, is that he's pace over the top and he can score goals. And when he's in bad form, all he's doing is making runs over the top. But as we saw in this game, the catalyst for change was not Allende making runs over the top. It was the whole team pushing 20 yards up the field. It was that right back playing as a right winger. It was Rodrigo de Paul finding spaces to attack. So as I think about what we did differently in that second half, it doesn't feel like something that can't be used when Lionel Messi's on the pitch. It's not that pace from Allende up the middle was the difference maker in this game. Not that he didn't have some nice moments to get into dangerous areas, but I think you can repeat that with Lionel Messi if you have your midfielders, especially those wide midfielders, and especially your fullbacks playing 20 yards higher up the field. I think that's how you get the best out of this team. I will say Pumas doesn't have particularly explosive runners in behind. So, listen, I thought it was a great decision at halftime from Javier Mascherano. It does not make me feel like he's going to get it right from now on, but I do want to give him his flowers when he does it. Of course, there's all these other considerations that are going to go into everything moving forward.
Yeah, and as you said, even if Messi comes back, it doesn't mean that you can't use the system, because I think all of our attackers got opportunities to get on the score sheet. That's the first time this has happened in a very long time. Kramaski, once he came on, had the opportunity. Allende could have scored a couple. Suárez, obviously. I think the midfield of Rodrigo de Paul and Segovia maybe did not get those opportunities, but I think even Segovia had a couple of shots at goal. So it wasn't like we were dependent on one player to create the opportunities. The opportunities were coming as a team because everyone was now pushing in the right direction, and it was a combination play that was very helpful. So completely agree with that assessment, and you put the right players, the ones that are the most talented, have the right skill. You put them in a way that suits their game style, and you'll get the best out of this team.
Yep. Substitutions. Obviously, we talked about the halftime sub of Ian Frey, but anyone else that really caught your mind? I mean, they really all came after the game was put to bed. 76th minute, Snow Allen and Fafa for Allende and Segovia. Kramaski comes out in the 83rd. Redondo comes in the 89th. Suárez and Rodrigo de Paul get taken off late in this game. Anything you want to talk? Is there anything else about this game you want to talk about before we get to awards?
No, I think the biggest part of this game was the tactical element of it and how Javier Mascherano showed his tactical nous in this game, which was interesting. For me, the players, it's very interesting because the players mattered less so in how they performed, just because how they were used was very interesting. It wasn't like the individual games. Of course, a lot of players have very good games, but for me, the thing that stood out the most was how they were utilized. The substitutions that came on, I thought, at the right time. Kramaski brought in fresh legs, had a really good opportunity, rounded the keeper, did not finish it off. Fafa Pico had a couple of really good moments, created that opportunity for Kramaski with that massive leaping header. But other than that, I thought it was more the system that was working really well than anything else. Luis Suárez came off early. That we've never seen before. So this game had a few firsts, which was interesting. But other than that, I think we're ready to get into the awards.
Yeah, by the way, for anyone that was wondering, Luis Suárez, after his goal, he wears a hat, or a cowboy hat with Delfina or Delphi on the title. Apparently, it was his daughter's birthday that day or a couple days before. So that was sort of like a nod to his daughter, who the chat informed me after Wednesday night made the hat. So if you were wondering about that, that's what that was. That was an ode to his daughter. Okay. Awards?
Sure. You've been waiting for this one, so.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Other than I know who you have to give man of the match to, and I am excited to hear the words come out of your mouth. And if you surprise me, we're going to have another conversation. Okay, guys, if you haven't watched the show before, we give out 6 awards after every single game: a Heron in the match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Because I went first last time, I will let you go first this time. Saur, who you got for man of the match?
I'm going to go with Luis Suárez as man of the match.
Where's the 20-minute speech about how good he is?
That's it. Let's go on to Heron that flew north award. No, all joking aside, phenomenal game from him. Deserved that goal. Did everything that he was supposed to do as a player on the pitch. What was asked of him in that role that's unconventional for a number 9. He was the facilitator, and we've spoken about this. It's almost as though he plays better without Messi on the pitch But in this game against Pumas, I thought he was the catalyst. The change was not Allende going up top. The change was Suárez coming back as a
Yeah.
9-10
Yeah.
hybrid. He was the one who was making everything click together. Of course, Rodrigo de Paul getting on the ball more. Of course, Ian Frey moving up the pitch a bit. But in the middle of the park, as that number 10, Suárez creating those opportunities, had a beautiful ball for Allende once, had a beautiful ball for Rodrigo de Paul at the start. Very effective this game. The best we've seen of him this season. And I have no shame in saying that he is the heron of the match for me because he's still an Inter Miami player. So I would love when an Inter Miami player does well. And I love when Suarez does well. So despite the fact that I've been a detractor and I've criticized him a lot, I have to give him his flowers when he has a good performance. And against Pumas, he was the best player on the pitch.
You know what's funny? I didn't even think he was that good in the first half.
That was the second half.
I was prepared to like, not give him his flowers. I know people think I'm always trying to defend him, but like I didn't think he was that good for 44 minutes. He has a beautiful assist to Rodrigo de Paul. And then in the second half, he was immaculate. And you're absolutely right. It wasn't that Allende went forward. It was that Suárez had someone that he could play off of in a specific style that allowed him to get going. He does score a goal on a set piece. It is called offsides because he was offsides, but has a nice finish on his penalty. And, that was the game-winning goal in all reality. And then he has a nice release to Tadeo Allende. He had another one or two moments that could have been assists if he had if the finish was better. But no, he was the best player on the pitch. 3 goal contributions. Gets his first goal since Palmeiras, and you got to feel good about that. Hits the back of the net, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get 2 goals from him on Sunday.
Yeah, if we utilize the same game style, then maybe, absolutely. And it wasn't just the goals and the assists that he got. It was also the fact that he was very, very effective throughout everything Inter Miami was trying to do offensively. Often at times, Suárez is criticized for not playing for 89 minutes and then in the 90th minute scoring a goal, playing for 10 minutes in a game, being completely absent for the rest of the game. That second half, he was everywhere. And you have to commend him for that. And I think he was enjoying himself as well. And you could see it with the way he was playing. So, great performance from him. I can't say more. I don't want to go on a 20-minute soliloquy that you did, but I think he deserves this moment.
Raymond has a very interesting comment in the chat, and I have starred it because it has triggered something in me. But I'm going to try and get refocused for Heron that flew north. And I'm going to give it to Cello Weigant. He's been poor for weeks now, and it's become obvious for opposition teams who are looking for ways to exploit Inter Miami. I thought he had a couple poor moments defensively in that first half, but the real reason I'm giving him the Heron that flew north is when he left the game, our team was 10 times better. And part of that's Ian Frey is a special talent. Part of it is because of all the other things we talked about, Rodrigo de Paul, Luis Suárez, Tadeo Allende. But I thought most of the mistakes that were made that were maybe Heron that flew north worthy in this game were made up for at some other point by everyone else. And Cello didn't have that moment. So I'm giving Cello Weigant the Heron that flew north for this game because when you go out and the team gets way better, that does say something. And I think it'll be best for you to have a few games off so that teams stop focusing on attacking you and your side of the pitch on a regular basis. Cello Weigant, Heron that flew north.
It's really funny because after he got that tackle on his thigh against Porto, I believe, he's not been the same player. He's just been a completely shadow of himself. I don't know if it was Porto, it was Palmeiras, or
that moment in the Club World Cup. I agree with you. I agree with you.
He's just been a completely shell of himself of a player, and it's bad. It's really bad to see. And I was hoping for his sake he was injured or picked up a knock or whatever, and that still may be the case. But you could see the difference was night and day between him and Ian Frey. It was just the impact that Ian Frey had is what Cello Weigant was thought he would bring to this team. But over the last few games, he's been very poor. I think in the last game as well, we gave the heron that flew north to somebody else, but Cello was right up there in contention. Before that, I think we gave it to him. So don't know what's going on with him, why he's suddenly lost his footing, why he's not playing that well. Of course, form can be up and down, but he's been an average player throughout his Inter Miami career. This is the worst I think that he's been. And not just because he's doing average things on the pitch, but he's now actually getting beat. And he's becoming a point of vulnerability for this team. Having Lujan next to him doesn't help, but it's not just a coincidence that he's getting beat by every single winger that he goes up against. If he plays against Orlando, I would fully expect him to be beat again and be that moment where you're looking at him as the biggest vulnerability for Inter Miami. So he needs to strap his boots up, whether it's by getting some time on the sidelines or getting his head around or whatever it is. But he's in bad form and he's been very bad for Inter Miami for the last few games. Wasn't particularly good and got hooked at halftime, which made the change, which made the difference and got us the win. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah, David's a couple nice chats. David says, I think the thing with Cello may just be that he needs some rest and to come back fresh. I think that's possible. I don't think Cello's a bad player. I think he's been playing way below his standard over the past couple weeks, and maybe that's because we didn't have another right back available with Ian Frey injured. And so I do hope Ian Frey gets a little bit of a run of game because I think it will help Cello 2 weeks from now. I think he could use a little bit of a rest. I do think he's probably dealing with something because the quickness, the burst, and the pivot, like the turn, keeping up with attackers, it's gotten noticeably slower and it's being exposed. So now that we have another option, I want to see that option play, and I hope Cello. I think he will be better in 3 weeks.
I don't want to see that option play. I want to see that option dominate. He needs to be in the starting 11 every single time. He's available.
Ian Frey.
Let him do it.
Ian Frey.
Yes.
Yes. Derry says, are we talking about the same Cello who scored the Game 1 Leagues Cup win us the game? We also said at that moment that was one good moment out of 15 bad moments. But he is the reason we are still in this tournament.
He was so bad in that game up until he scored that goal. So let's not even get it started, by the way.
Hey, people want a new striker. Maybe we should just use Cello up top. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
What is your first award?
Oh, I haven't even thought about my first award. Let me have a look. My first award is the Ciao Soldato Award, which means bye, soldier.
Ciao Soldato. Oh, goodbye, soldier. Okay, it's Italian. Okay. Ciao Soldato. This award goes to Yannick Bright because he's Italian, but also because Coco Carrasquilla, Pedro Vite thought they were going to just run through that midfield. And he sent them home packing, saying, bye-bye, soldier. Nailed it.
I think I made it really easy for you on this one. Maybe should have thought a little bit more about my award. That's it. Yannick Bright, I thought was phenomenal, in contention to be the man of the match. I don't know if you had the same thoughts. I think you might have different thoughts on this, but he was brilliant. I looked at the ratings and the stats, and even without a goal or an assist, of course, he had the pre-assist. He was right up there. He was averaging so high in every single advanced stat. He was doing everything well. For me, not just the fact that he's winning the balls, he's positioning himself really well. Honestly, made it sure that Inter Miami does not lose by 1-0 up until the 42nd minute, because I thought if he wasn't there, they could have cut us apart even easier. May be blamed for that goal that Pumas scored. Fine. But what he brought in ball carrying, what he got to this game in terms of line breaking passes with that pre-assist was absolutely brilliant. He just had this crispness to his game, this quick passing, taking the ball, turning, looking up quickly, and then just distributing it. Whether it was short, whether it was long, he was doing everything. There were moments he was playing on that right-hand channel and getting into space and putting balls into the box. And I was like, where's this coming from? He's never ventured out that far. It was brilliant to watch. And if he continues to put in these performances, ciao Solito, because he's going to be gone soon to Italy or wherever they come to take him from. He deserves to go soon, man. He's putting on some brilliant performances, and this is his second game back from injury, by the way. So
Yannick Bright's a superstar. I think he's the best defensive midfielder in the MLS. He had 9 takeaways last night. Wednesday night. He is a special defensive midfielder at this level. You're right. That is a position where sometimes teams struggle to identify players. Obviously, if you're a striker or a winger and you're just putting up crazy goal and assist numbers, it's easier to identify those types of talents. Yannick Bright is a star. I've also thought about this a lot since Wednesday night because after the game, I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was special. And you thought he was special, and the chat was crucifying me for saying he was fine. And I realized there's a battle to be fought over Yannick Bright, and we've been fighting over it since basically preseason of last year, but certainly once he signed his professional contract, where when you compare him to Redondo or you compare him to Kramaski, he's clearly a superior player. There is no doubt about that. And so when you see the coach not recognizing that and making personnel decisions based on that fact, it feels like, man, the coach doesn't see Yannick Bright as clearly more talented than a Redondo or anyone else in that position. No names are even needed. And so when he does play and he plays well, you kind of are like, see, this guy's awesome. He's getting all these takeaways. He's having a huge impact in the midfield. He has to play. I have a different perspective because I think it's so obvious that he is one of the best players on this star-studded team. And again, I think the best defensive midfielder in the league, that I have super high expectations for what he is. And I'll be honest, I still think even after rewatching, he was like a 7 out of 10 for what I've seen him do. You are right. He is progressing the ball way more than he did last year. It's something we've seen a little bit over the course of this season, and he continued that last night. He did get that pre-assist to Suárez. I will add, he did also turn the ball over about 7 seconds earlier and then won it back. I thought he had like 3 or 4 turnovers that I would like to see better from him. But I will say that's the type of review I would give to a Lionel Messi. Like, you had 4 moments I wanted better from you, and I'm not even giving you enough credit for the other 25 you did really well because I have such high expectations of you. So I think Yannick Bright was really good. I've seen him be exceptional, like mistake-proof. And I thought he had like 3 or 4 turnovers that I would like him to do better. But if we're talking about it in the context of anyone else in that position, or even other positions, as in you keep Allende on the field instead of him, or a second strike, whatever it is. In that scenario, he was outstanding. He changes the midfield, and he's a special talent. And we've been saying this since we saw him for 10 minutes against the Hong Kong All-Stars in the preseason last year.
you know what it is? I haven't seen him in so long that I forgot how good he actually is. So maybe you're absolutely right. And maybe I'm being a little bit sparkly-eyed with Brighton, but there's no denying the talent. And maybe our expectations for him need to change. And yours are obviously at that level. And mine may have been before the injury, but I missed him for so long. I was reminded how good he truly is. So for me, he made a big difference in this game, had a fantastic performance. And
absolutely,
there you go. Give him the award.
And I don't know if you listened to the sort of after raw reaction thing I did on Wednesday night, but I did talk about what the situation with Yannick Brighton should be in the offseason, because I think Inter Miami should just give him a 5-year, $1 million a year contract or $800,000 a year contract, because if you can have this guy at the heart of your team for the next 5 years, and he's going to get his green card and not take an international roster slot and all that stuff, like, I think that's a no-brainer. But I don't know. Maybe he wants to go play in Italy. I don't know. Okay. My turn. My first award is the My first award is the, I hope, all gas, no brake award.
You hope all gas, no brake award or all
Sorry.
gas, no brake award?
I submitted my awards to our graphics department to turn into the graphics, and I think this is the first one. All
Okay.
gas, no brakes.
That's Ian Frey. He went out, powered through, did not stop, made sure into Miami was well and clear before he finally put the brakes on. And I thought that was a fantastic, fantastic performance from him.
It's not so much what he does, but how he thinks about the game, which is let's be aggressive, let's be on the front foot. And it changes the entire dynamic of the entire 11. When he's on the pitch, they go forward. They are more aggressive. They take more chances. They have better outlets. They find opportunities in a way they just don't when he's not on the pitch. It's absolutely Ian Frey. He goes and plays at the corner of the opposition's penalty box for the first 10 minutes he's in the game, just to trigger Inter Miami to play way higher, ultimately invest in a lot in pressing opportunities. He is an outlet for them. So when Suárez gets the ball, he actually has someone to pass to. I thought that was huge. The overlapping created a ton of space for Rodrigo de Paul to really find the game, and he was much better in that second half than he was in the first half. This guy wants to play an aggressive style of soccer. This Inter Miami team is built to play an aggressive style of soccer. And the fact that he doesn't always play is an indicative problem within the ideology of how this coaching staff thinks we should be playing. And it's the crux of everything. You should be playing high up the field. You should be playing ultra aggressive because you have the talented players that will intimidate and suffocate and overwhelm. And Ian Frey has that mindset every single minute he's on the pitch.
We've just spoken about Yannick Bright being an exceptional player, superstar. All of that can be said about Ian Frey as well. Absolutely, and more. I think Ian Frey is a better player than Yannick Bright, just in general, talent and X factor. He needs to be used. Otherwise, this team is not going to be able to achieve what the expectations it set itself. To overcome the obstacles that we're facing, the issues that we're facing, there are solutions to it. Ian Frey is one of the biggest solutions for it. He's a phenomenal player. The moment he comes on, completely changes the nature of how we approach a game. And for me, it's an injustice that he doesn't get the same number of minutes. Yes, he's coming back from an injury, and credit to Javier Mascherano for recognizing that Ian Frey is the one who should be brought on at halftime to change and make the difference. So good for him on that. But this is a player who needs to start. If he's fit, if he's ready, start him. He's all gas, but I will say it's not just a boneheaded all gas. He just doesn't power through. He knows exactly how to play that game.
It's a mentality.
Yeah,
exactly. Not an action, a mentality.
And there's just a swag with which he plays. There's just a confidence and a commitment to the cause with which he plays. He's so fearless. He doesn't care who is against him. He will show you what his skill set is. And for me, that's just is brilliant to watch. It's smooth, it's silky, and it's what makes the difference.
HC says that Frey's come back from 3 potentially career-ending injuries. His mindset is exactly what we need, but he also says it's the exact opposite of what Javier Mascherano likes. And I think that could not be more true. Listen, I think we all understand if Ian Frey gets rotated out more often than other players, I think we would all understand. Like Segovia gets taken out in the 65th, 70th minute of every game. I think we would understand if that was Ian Frey getting taken out in the 65th, 70th minute of every game. We understand the health concerns for this player, and we all want him to be as fit and healthy as possible. But when you see Chelo Weigand start 7 games in a row when Ian Frey is available, which we have seen a couple times this year and last year, it's like this isn't about keeping Frey healthy. This is because you think Chelo's giving you the better opportunity here, and he's not. Not to get into a big contract discussion, but Chelo Wagon's making like 750,000, 735,000 this year, which is a huge salary for a right back or a fullback that's not like a star. He's making way too much. And then Ian Frey's like 150. He's going to need to get a new contract this year because his contract is actually expiring. But the only thing that Chelo has over him is that he's taking 5 times more of your money. There's no other reason to play this guy.
And doing 5 times worse of a job.
Yeah. Okay. What's your first award? Or second award?
Well, I just realized that I also had an award for Ian Frey, so fair enough. And my next award is probably worse because it was my least preferred award. But I'm going to go with the Now Showing award.
Hold on. Josue says you guys, before we leave Ian Frey, Jose says you guys put Masha on the hot seat for not choosing Frey, but Tato also favored Chelo. Where is the consistency? Tata Martino had game-changing tactics at least 3 times a month that showed his impact on this team. Javier Mascherano just had his first ever in-game impact at Inter Miami. So the idea that the only thing we were complaining about with Javier Mascherano was Ian Frey, that's just silly. Okay, I apologize. I'm getting too invested in the chat tonight, but I do love the guys. So,
hey,
what's the award?
The chat is what keeps this podcast alive, so you better respect them. And
I do.
You admire what they say.
To the point of getting off topic. Go ahead.
Sorry. The thing is, they always agree with me mostly, so I like them more than you do. So, my next award is the Now Showing award.
Now Showing. This is a reference to a brand new film.
Well, it's just a generic reference to film culture in general. When a brand new film comes on, when there's a brand new film on the screens, they say Now Showing.
I've got 3 in my head. I'm going to guess it's Rocco Ríos Novo because you are so comfortable with him between the sticks for the rest of this League's Cup.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, but sure. Now Showing, in a theater near you, Rodrigo de Paul as the most handsome football player ever. Every time he's going to put on that Inter Miami jersey, every time he's going to play for Inter Miami, it's going to be absolute cinema. And that's why it's the Now Showing award. He's going to be transformational. He's played 3 games. He's had 4 goal contributions. He now finally had his first goal for Inter Miami. Took him 2 games. Do you want to put a bet on how long it's going to take Thomas Müller or Son? Probably longer than 2 games. He is phenomenal. His contributions are exactly what Inter Miami needed. And as I said, every time he's starting for Inter Miami, it's going to be cinema, and we're just going to have to enjoy this ride. He's only 31. He could be here for another 5 years. Who knows how much he can contribute to this team and what the heights that he can take us to. But this is the future, and it's brilliant, and I love it. He wasn't great in that first half where I thought he was fine. But as soon as that switch was made to that right mid-side, it was just, he got on that ball, and he got on how. Well done to him. Needed to be given an award for his first goal contribution, or first goal for Inter Miami.
Yeah, I agree with you. A little underwhelming, but was really good in the second half. If you're going to lose Lionel Messi to bring in Rodrigo de Paul as his replacement, I mean, that's pretty special. He's an incredible football player, like an incredible talent. I don't know if he's a unicorn. I do think it's way too early to say for sure. I do think when we signed Busquets, Alba, and Messi, and then Suárez, they are like unicorns. And I think Rodrigo de Paul is just like a really, really good player. And so I wonder if we're going to get less of those ultra spectacular moments, but still get like a lot of just really high quality ball progression, makes the rest of the team work in such an effective way. I'm not saying we're not going to get those special moments. I think it's definitely too early to tell. But like to not have those special moments and still have this type of an impact, just because you're that good from minute 1 to minute 90, like I think that's also a sign of like a really exceptional talent.
It's the high level consistency.
Yeah.
Like there's even his average game is much better than everyone else on the pitch. And honestly, we have those game changers, those moment makers, and Suárez and Alba and Busquets, who are all obviously high quality as well. But he just does his job consistently on such a high level. And he does so many different things. He wins the ball. He makes line breaking passes. He positions himself well. He's good at creating. Of course, he's good at scoring. There's just so much he does at a high level that's so good consistently. And I think that in itself is what makes him a unicorn in this league, because not many players in this league can have so many facets that are world class to them.
Yeah, like what I just said, I hope doesn't make anyone think I don't think he's a special player, because I think he's an exceptionally talented individual. And I think if Inter Miami does win trophies this year, it's going to be because he was the catalyst for Inter Miami taking another step forward. The best player in Monterrey, I've seen him maybe 4 or 5 games this year, but it feels like Sergio Ramos is the best player on that team. And that's Monterrey, which is one of the best teams in Mexico with some of the best, highest expectations. Inter Miami has 5 of those guys on our team. And so when we're talking about how talented this roster is, how good they should be, what the expectations are, this team is so much more talented than everyone else. And they just added another one of those types of players. So I am excited for Lionel Messi to come back and see these 5 really start to click and build some momentum and chemistry, because I think it could be really special. And I hope that they are allowed to express their talent to the fullest this season.
Yep, absolutely. Round us out.
My final award is the I Dreamed a Dream Award.
The I Dreamed a Dream Award. Obviously, this is, well, it was I Had a Dream, but still a reference to Martin Luther King. Revolutionized the civil rights movement in the country.
That's not.
Changed the course of American history. A thought leader.
You're just so
did
off
so much.
I Dreamed a Dream is a song from Les Mis.
Les Mis, of course. I Dreamed a Dream. So Hugh Jackman, obviously. Someone who looks like Hugh Jackman, obviously. There's a ship involved.
No, dude. RDP has already been taken. You don't have to.
My bad. I'll be honest, I've never seen Les Miserables. I haven't read Les Miserables. So I have no idea who this is. But I'm going to say it is Rocco Ríos Novo, because he never dreamed that he would be Inter Miami's. Well, he dreamt that he would be Inter Miami's #1 goalkeeper someday. But that dream has now turned into reality. And for that, Rocco Ríos Novo dreams a dream. And also looks a little bit like Hugh Jackman, maybe.
Couldn't be more wrong about everything you just said there. I'm giving it to Sergio Busquets, because whether it's next March or in 3 years from now, we're going to look back at Sergio Busquets and think, did I dream how impactful he was? Because we're going to get worse when he's not on the field. I know we give him credit. We always give him credit, and we'll give him an award when he has like a really nice assist or something. But I was just watching this game, especially on the rewatch. I was just thinking, man, the tempo, the flow, the control, everything we want to do, Sergio Busquets just makes it easier for us to do. I thought he had some really nice defensive moments. People are way too critical of his defensive abilities. And this is a guy we're going to look back on and say, man, did I dream that? Because it was really, really good. I think when we're talking about Rodrigo de Paul, we're talking about a guy who's just really talented across the board. But then you look at Sergio Busquets and the way he sees the game and the way he thinks about the game and the way that impacts everyone around him. It is hard to describe, but it's really special.
He's the unicorn we were talking about. There's nobody like him. I think Inter Miami, once Sergio Busquets leaves, will be a different team in how we play.
Yeah.
There's not going to be anyone who can do what he does. There's not going to be anyone who can be as press resistant. We may improve physically, athletically, but I think technically we'll be a worse team. And that's sad because you can't ever have a player that's even close to what Sergio Busquets is for this team.
It's not even, and I apologize for not having spent more time thinking how I wanted to describe this or explain this, but it's not even the technical ability. It's just the way he operates dictates how the rest of the team operates in such a fundamental way. And it doesn't feel like he's yelling at them to get forward or slowing it down or pushing the pace. Like he just operates that way and the rest of the team just follows. It's really interesting to watch when you start kind of looking for it. I think him next to Yannick Bright is just like a special, special partnership because everything that Busquets does, the only thing you don't get from him is like a real monster in the midfield. And then when you put Yannick Bright in, you win so many balls back. And then you get it to your playmakers to distribute. Sometimes that's Busquets. That partnership is just, it's like chef's kiss. And we need to keep seeing it. We need to.
Nothing more to add to that, man. He's been brilliant. I think if we do the draft next, you better pick him second because I think
You're going to go second next time.
Okay, so I'm going to pick him. Spoiler. Because he's
Not
definitely
RDP?
been better than... I forgot about that. Maybe not.
Then
We'll
it's back
see.
to me for number 3.
And you're going to pick Luis Suarez. So that's going to be unfair. But I think Sergio Busquets has been the consistently most brilliant performer for this team this season.
I really liked his performance in this game. Okay, anyone else you want to talk about? Tadeo Allende gets on the goal sheet. He also missed 2 one-on-one opportunities. One, I would give credit to the keeper. He made himself really big. The second one was just him taking too hard of a touch in a way that every single one of us can picture in our heads. Segovia, I thought, had kind of a quiet game.
I agree.
And Jordi Alba, I thought was fine, but nothing special. And then Rocco, who didn't give an award, I thought actually was pretty nice. That center back partnership, I do want to stop on them for a second. I didn't think they had a good game, man. Actually, this is perfect because Raymond in the chat brought something up. He says, if we do have Frey and Jordi pushing up from the sides, would you still be comfortable with Falcone and Lujan in the back? I like Toto, but I don't trust him to stay away of the boneheaded cards. Maxi Falcone has had some incredible moments this year, and they make up for some of the games where he's poor. Like you think back to his moments where he's on the back line saving goals. That is game-changing, and depending on where we end up in the supporter shield table, like it could change the whole season. But he also has some kind of poor games, and Lujan has some mostly poor games. And so this chat really made me think about this because I do want Ian Frey and Jordi Alba playing way higher up the pitch. And I don't trust Lujan or Falcone in any sort of setup. Absolutely, Noah Allen and Toto Avila should be the starters. And they should be the starters in a system that has us playing much higher up the field and much more aggressively. The way we currently play is designed to protect Maxi Falcone and Gonzalo Lujan to the best of our ability. And that is not how any team with Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba should be playing. The primary focus should be getting those guys in positions to impact the game. And instead, we play a style designed to protect 2 center backs who shouldn't even be on the field based on the talent levels of a Toto Aviles and a Noah Allen, and even an Ian Frey at center back. And I would even go out on a limb and say like a Ryan Saylor or Sergio Busquets, and certainly a David Martinez if we want to take it back a couple months. I thought Lujan was bad in this game again. I thought Maxi Falcone was like meh again.
I do want to contest your point that we play a certain style to protect them. I think these two players were brought in to play that certain style.
Yes, I agree. And
So it's not like we play it to protect them. It's what we expect of them.
no,
So
but
I don't want to
but
be critical of
yes,
them because that's
I
what
totally
they can play. Yeah.
I totally agree. Javier Mascherano said, I want two center backs that I like. And
Who are
Lujan is a guy
slow,
he's like
who
for a long
can't
time.
move, who can't run, who don't know positioning, who let in
aren't
goals
tall.
after goals, who are not tall,
And so
who have
to
no
the
attributes that you want in a centre-back partnership.
And to that point, the chat, he doesn't trust Tota Aviles and his yellow cards. I will just say, Gonzalo Lujan is giving up more goals per minute than Tota Aviles is getting yellow cards. So if we're comparing the two of them, there is no comparison. I would much rather take Toto and his yellow cards than Gonzalo Lujan giving up 3 clear-cut opportunities every single game, which, by the way, he did again in the first half. And if you go rewatch it, you can see Revo Caba just had his number in the first 35 minutes.
Yeah.
That's probably my time for complaining about Lujan in this game. Fafa Picault had a nice header to a Kramaski. Yeah. Kramaski did not. He tried to round the keeper. I don't like it when players that aren't Lionel Messi or like Cristiano Ronaldo, like if you don't have the ultimate technical ability to make that one touch a single step away, I think you're just inviting the defenders back in. I'd rather you just try and power through, through the goalkeeper.
Just take a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Worst, it'll be saved, but at least you'll have a shot on target.
Noah Allen comes in. Redondo doesn't do much. So Ian Frey, obviously the big guy off the bench. Anyone else that you want to stop on and sit on for a few minutes?
No, I think that was it. That's all I had. I think the changes were there to see. The substitutions were good. Inter Miami played well after a certain point in the game, and I think deserved winners at the end of the day. So overall, a very positive game from Inter Miami. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a way we came on and we were just so frustrated and depressed and sad. And instead, the team had an incredible 45 minutes where they completely dominated a Liga MX team that was in the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Their reward for that, as we started off with, is a game against Tigres in 12 days. It's not this upcoming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, 8 p.m. It is at Chase Stadium. Tigres will make the travel. In the intervening period, Inter Miami plays Orlando City on Sunday. They play the LA Galaxy next weekend in a couple games that you would feel like Inter Miami has a real chance to get 3 points on. I will say we haven't had a ton of success at Orlando, which is where our game is on Sunday. But those are important games if Inter Miami wants to stay alive for the Supporter Shield table.
Supporter Shield.
Yeah,
I think Orlando is going to be a big test without Messi. I do think Messi is going to be back sooner rather than later. We have a break next week, right? Next Wednesday, we may not have a game. So
there's no game.
We'll have a full week of recovering, resting. Then we'll see Lujan and Cello back in action and Maxi Falcone back in action. But more importantly, we'll see Messi back in action sooner rather than later. So build on the momentum, take it away, and hopefully we can put on similar performances for the next entire course of the season, because I'm done with watching that boring football. I've seen something that Javier Mascherano is capable of doing. I want to see more of that. So bring on that expansive, fun, dynamic football.
Okay, so do you mind if I just steal your attention for 3 or 4 minutes while we wind down this? I have been having...
always have my attention, Scotty.
It's good to know.
That's not true,
in the back of my
yeah.
head. For those that are listening on audio and didn't realize, we do a raw reaction for somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes after every single game. But the last couple games, I've been stopping and staying with the chat for another half an hour or so. So if you want to listen to that, it's on YouTube. But one of the things I've enjoyed is just kind of like looking at some questions from the chat and just casually having that conversation. So I want to bring that experience to you, Saur. And this is a great chat. Jay says that the window's closing in 13 days. Realistically, what do you think the chances are of a new addition? Better than 50%. What would they need to move? Would they need to move anyone off the roster? How are you feeling about the window and Inter Miami's moves?
I think there'll be one more. There'll be an incoming. I have a feeling Inter Miami is going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. They're probably setting the groundwork before making the move. We need a defender. We're one injury away from suffering again. So let's be honest, Inter Miami needs a centre back first and foremost. If we get somebody in the final third as a winger or a forward, that'll be an addition for sure. But I think we do need a centre back, and I expect Inter Miami to sign a centre back. I'm going to put the percentage to 80%. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't happen. And I feel like Inter Miami should be doing the work behind the scenes. They've had options. There was few names that we heard in the background. Let's see where it's at. But in terms of incomings, I expect at least one. You're muted.
Got me again with the old mute button.
I know what you said though, and you're right. You're not expecting somebody to come in. I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are.
Word for word, I said I'm not so optimistic, my friend. Listen, we heard Mark Bartra as a defender. We heard Facundo Pellistri. We've heard some other names floated around. I think they would be making moves like that would be happening if it was going to happen. It is very easy for Inter Miami to go look at players they would be interested in and even contact the agents and say, would you be interested in Inter Miami? And then, all of a sudden you see the salary requirements or maybe the salary requirements plus potential transfer fee from the other team. And all of a sudden it doesn't make sense and it's no longer feasible. But the journalist who breaks the story looks at, oh, this player is interested in Inter Miami and Inter Miami is interested in them. This could happen. They don't report on everything ended. I think specifically with those two names, Bartra and Pellistri, we would be hearing stuff about that daily if it was going to happen. I would be surprised if either of those happen. I will also throw a 5-minute rant if they do not use that international roster slot that they traded away for Gam, then bought back for more Gam and Leo Alfonso. So they have to do something or I'm going to lose my head again. But I actually think we might not. It is 13 days till the window closed. I will remind everyone, you have to get the player, you have to have an agreement with the team, you have to have them come do their physical, and they have to get their work permit in time. And so...
Which takes on an average about 3 months for Inter Miami to issue the...
No. At the end of the window, the work permit can be faster. It can be expedited, but you're not going to get a deadline day deal. You're going to hear something by 3 or 4 days out, and that's 8 days, 9 days from now. So if we don't hear something next week, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, I agree.
By, Thursday, maybe, I would be very surprised if Inter Miami signs anyone. And I think maybe I'd put it at like 40% chance we sign anyone. I think center back is probably my number one priority, mostly because Javier Mascherano doesn't trust Toto. And I want someone other than Lujan and Falcone playing at center back when we get to the playoffs. And I do think he likes Noah Allen enough to partner him with a new signing. So give me that, and I will be pretty happy.
Let's see. We've got, 8 days, 13 days?
Yeah.
Just about.
Tony says, I think all the teams that made it to the Leagues Cup knockout stages will give up on the Supporters' Shield. I don't think Inter Miami is going to give up on anything because they, A, believe in themselves, and B, they are ultra competitive. So it's not a matter of if it's feasible. I just think from a mindset perspective, they're going to go for every single game. And that's going to lead them to winning a lot of them.
And the next stage of the Leagues Cup is interspersed with MLS games. So I don't see a reason for them, for any team for that matter, unless it's a depth issue, to treat the tournament as different. It's going to be a knockout game. You put out your best side and everything, but I think Inter Miami has enough depth to go out and win the Supporters' Shield and the Leagues Cup. So at least for Inter Miami, that shouldn't be the case. For the other teams, I can't really say much.
Also, the schedules gets pretty easy. They play Orlando City. Some of their remaining games include the Galaxy, who are the second worst team in the MLS, DC United, who's awful, DC United twice, who's awful, Toronto, who's bad, New England, who's not in the playoffs, Atlanta, who can't win a game to save their lives, except in the third game of the Leagues Cup when they knock out Necaxa.
Except every time they play into Miami.
Well, So there's a lot of 3-point games in there. Even the other ones are like Charlotte, Seattle, Nashville, like very winnable games. So I think they're gonna have a chance to go for it even after the Leagues Cup's over. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so let's wrap it up there. Any final thoughts?
No, on to the next round. We've got Tigres ahead of us, which I think is a winnable game. And we're 3 games away from glory. The Leagues Cup is the best chance that Inter Miami has to win a trophy this season, or at least the most immediate chance that Inter Miami has to win a trophy this season. We've done well to get out of the group. It wasn't easy, but now it's an easy equation. You just go there, you beat your opponent, and you're on to the next round. No waiting on other results, no figuring out what the goal difference needs to be. Just go there, put up a performance, and win. But before that, there's some thorny individuals in Florida waiting for us in Orlando on Sunday. And hopefully we can get a little bit of a revenge for what they did to us this season already. That's going to be an interesting game.
I was afraid to mention, not that, but getting out of the group stage. We talked about in the Club World Cup how Messi had never been eliminated in the group stage. I didn't want to jinx it, but that could have happened, and people would have said he got eliminated from the Leagues Cup group stage. And here we are, Inter Miami getting through in second place. There is no one in this tournament remaining that is just overwhelming. In fact, I think Inter Miami should be the favorite to win this tournament. And so
Monterrey's out as well, right?
Monterrey's out. I think Tigres is the only one of the big Mexican teams. Toluca is having a big moment right now, but they're not one of the traditional powers. And then the MLS teams, Seattle, Orlando, and the Galaxy, there's nothing there.
I think it's going to be a Liga MX versus MLS final, and I think it's going to be Inter Miami on this side of the bracket.
I hope so. Okay, guys, we will see you Sunday, 1 hour before kickoff for that big game against Orlando City. We're converting from the black and white of Leagues Cup to the traditional pink of Inter Miami. We're going to go on the road and hopefully get 3 points. Until then, guys, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we will see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.